Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Lord of the Rings: The Third Age walkthrough. Boy, that ends up being a mouthful, huh? This game is it's pretty fun. I don't know. It's as far as RPGs go, it's pretty. I don't know. Maybe the storyline is a little bit lacking, but I feel like the battle. I really like the battle system. So that's the real reason why I'll be playing this. So yeah, so that being said, you know, if the storyline is an absolute must, I would maybe steer away from this one. But if that's not like a top priority for you, or if you can kind of get over that, I think that, you know, you may very well enjoy this game as much as I do. But anyways, I'm actually going to play this on hard mode. I've never done a full hard mode playthrough before. I usually play on, you know, easy or medium. And the only real difference is that the monsters hit you harder and they have a lot more health. So, you know, battles tend to take longer.
The world of Middle-earth is changing. The beauty of the elves fades. It passes into legend, into myth, into dreams. The ancient spirits of earth, fire, air, and water, who once roamed this earth freely, are forgotten. But it was not always so. In Eregion long ago, the elves were given secret knowledge to forge great rings of power. They were precious beyond all else, for within each was bound the strength and will to rule. But they were deceived, for the giver of this knowledge was evil's great servant, Sauron. In the fires of Mordor he forged in secret one ring. Welcome, warrior of Gondor. Your road here will not be an easy one. Much will be risked in the war that is to come. But you will justify my trust. This I sense with all my heart.
Stand aside, creature. You are in my way.
Alright, so here's our first fight. This one you don't need to worry about winning, because you can't. And it's kind of interesting. Your character doesn't have actually any of his skills right away. It's kind of weird. And then the battle after this you will. So it's a little strange. I'm not really sure why they did that. Not that it really matters, I guess, but, you know, kind of interesting.
Return to the shadow, slave of Sauron. What grace has been given to me, let it pass to him. Let him be spared. To you I bestow this gift of my people. It braces the soul and binds the hearts of others.
I live because of your bravery, my lady. What favor might I grant you?
There is no time. Hurry, we must find you equipment and heal your wounds.
Alright, so here we are introduced to our first two characters, Barad-dûr and Idril, and boy, you know, that first couple lines that Idril's got that really bothered me. the whole what grace is given to me, whatever. Like, oh my god, could you have ripped that off harder from the movies? Anyways, there's only a couple of really bad lines in the game. That just happens to be one of them. So, you know, again, hopefully that doesn't sour you for the rest of the game. But man, that was so lame. I remember the first time I watched that, just like rolling my eyes, going, "Oh, really?" All right. Anyways, enough trash talking. You know, like I said, there's only a couple of times like that where I was, you know, really like, "Oh my god, really?" For sure. But anyways, all right. So first two characters here, Barethor, Idril. I kind of look like, or I kind of feel like Barethor was. He's a little bit of a ripoff of Boromir. You know, both from Gondor, blah blah blah. Idril, I don't know. Elven caster, I don't know. Who's she supposed to be a maybe you could argue that she'd be like a ripoff of Arwen a little? Although, I don't know. In the books, the books are a little bit different from the actual movie. You know, if you're familiar, I assume if you're playing this game that you've seen the movies. I'm just going to assume that. But in the books, you know, events play out a little bit different. That's an understatement, huh? But in the movie, anyway, Arwen rescues Frodo from the Nazgul and uses the whole river horses spell, which doesn't happen in the books. So they just, I don't know if they were trying to give Liv Taylor? Whatever, I forget her name. Or Tyler, who knows. Anyways, tried to give her a little more screen time, I felt like. And so obviously, like I said, so the books, that was a completely different character. But anyways, you could maybe draw some similarities between Idril and Arwen. Anyways, long story short, boy, that's an annoying tangent, huh? Anyways, here we're in what is this called? Adventure mode, where you're kind of running around on the field. So your typical, you know, RPG, I guess. And you know, there's all kinds of treasures all over the place. So we're gonna obviously grab those and equip what we've got. What did I get there? I got a shield for Barethor, and what did that look like? A necklace, was that for Idril? So some basic equipment. This, I guess actually what I'll do here is I'll just try to explain a little bit about how I decide to build my characters. And, you know, just keep in mind that I'm playing on hard mode, so things are going to be a little bit different. If you're playing on medium or easy, you know, obviously these fights are going to go a lot faster for you. But I think some of the same, you know, principles can be applied to all difficulty levels. That being, so one of the things that you got to know is everybody's got basically two different skill sets. And we'll probably talk about Idril in the next video, but I'll focus mostly on Barethor here. So he's got his two are, what does he get? He gets swordcraft, and then I believe it's leadership. And so swordcraft is basically your DPS. I don't know, tree, I suppose you could call it. And you know, that's mostly going to focus on, you know, exactly what you'd expect, his sword skills. So his first one is Guardian Strike. I believe it just takes whatever damage you'd normally do with a regular attack. So like, because everybody's got a regular, not necessarily a melee attack, but everybody's got like a basic attack. And then what Guardian Strike does is just adds damage to that. And I don't remember, you know, I'm sure there's a formula somewhere, but I don't know if it's you know, that useful to know the exact formula, but you just know that it's gonna hit harder than your regular attack. And the way that your characters will gain skills in this game is just by using them. So the more you use Guardian Strike, or I should say, if you use Guardian Strike enough times, it will unlock the next skill. And you can actually, to a certain extent, determine what skill your character will learn next. Oftentimes, you're only going to get a choice between two skills. And what I mean is that I think so for the for Barathor's first skill that you can actually learn. I believe it's called Orcbane. And I don't think you can actually change that. I think that'll always be the second skill that you learn, just because that's how that sword tree actually works. So, you know, I think it's something like use Guardian Strike 5 times and you learn, you know, I'm just throwing numbers out there. I think it's 5 times. Maybe it's 10. But use Guardian Strike 5 times and you learn Orcbane. So Orcbane will do more damage to orcs. And you know, again, now that's another thing where I don't know the actual formula, and I don't know that I'm going to go out of my way to try to find that information. Just know that you're going to do more damage to orcs. And here, while we're in this screen, I want to talk a little bit about the stats. So you can see here, I've got 2 points to spend on each of my characters here. And with Barathor, I put 1 point into Spirit and 1 point into Speed, and with Idril, I put both points into Spirit. And I guess actually I'll talk about that a little bit more.
I heard a voice on the
at a
road.
later date.
Yes, I know.
Who could it?
Patience.
I'm looking for Boromir of Gondor. Have you seen him?
No. But I do see orcs ahead.
But anyways, back to the whole learning skills and whatnot. So you know, I talked a little bit about the sword skill. So basically, everybody's got at least one tree that's like kind of more or less DPS focused, damage focused. And everybody else, so then everybody else has a you know, like almost like a secondary trait. And in Barathor's case, it's leadership. So what does leadership do? Well, I always look at it as like party buffs. That's essentially what all of those do. I believe there's 2 of them that I guess I wouldn't say that fall necessarily into the buff category, but for the most part, that is what they will do. Barathor's first skill is something like Company. I think it's Company Might, and that's going to increase your damage. The one thing that I'm not 100% sure on is whether or not all of his leadership abilities last until like the entire duration of combat. That I don't know. Some of them I feel like they do, and maybe some of them don't necessarily last the whole combat. But so that being said, you know, unfortunately, that's going to, or could potentially cause you some problems if you're expecting that, you know, your damage buff would last the entire time and it really only lasts, you know, we'll say 3 turns. You know, maybe you'd be better off using something else with him. But I feel like at least with his Company Might, I think that does last the entire combat. So one other thing that I want to speak about this is, so eventually we're going to get, or I should say, so first of all, you can only have 3 characters active at a time, in combat, that is. So anytime you end up in that combat screen, you can only ever have 3 of your characters out. Now, we're going to end up with more than 3 characters. So what does that mean? Well, some of them are kind of like hanging out in reserve. And what that means is you can still call them into battle, you know, if you want, but you have to switch out with somebody else. And how that affects Barathor is that basically all of your characters that are currently in combat, when he used the buff, those are the only ones that get affected by the buff.
Weapons. Provisions. The elves are very resourceful.
Long have we kept such way stations for times of great need.
I am Barathor, captain of the Citadel Guard of Gondor.
And I am Idril. I serve Galadriel, Lady of Light. Take what you need, and let us be on our way.
So, like I said, so the characters that are actually active when Barathor casts his party buff are the ones affected. Now, the cool thing is, though, when you swap those characters out that have the buffs on them, they don't lose those buffs. So, you know, if you use, like, Company Might on your first turn, and then you know, we'll just say your second character acts, we'll say Idril in this case acts, and then you want to switch out to somebody else, well, when you put Idril back in, she will still have Company Might active on her. So, I guess just keep that in mind when you, you know, when you're thinking about the different buffs and whatnot. Here we've got a little area. There's a bunch of obviously some treasure chests in here, and you can see I've been getting some different items. A lot of these items that you'll get in the treasure chests are not, equipment.
Craven spies! My caravan is in danger!
Those crows seem guided by some fell purpose.
It is the hand of Isengard. The White Wizard has betrayed us. Hurry!
So they're not necessarily always equipment, but, oftentimes they will be items that are usable in combat. And here you can see I'm skipping all these scenes. So basically this game is, they've got a ton of different cutscenes from the movies, and I'm just going to skip all those. Feel free to watch those at your own leisure. I've seen all of them. I've seen the movies so many times, it's a little ridiculous. But, if that's something that you want to check out, by all rights, or by all means, go right ahead. But I will continue to skip them. So what did I get there? I got something else, I think, for Idril, and then I know there's a treasure chest up here in the corner. Right, so a silver tiara. Alright, cool. So some more equipment for Idril there. And then, okay, King's Coil Leaves, not bad. So you may have noticed in some of the earlier combat rounds there that my characters were getting extremely low and had very little AP, and that's just because I'm playing on hard. The first probably 2 or 3 battles are really the hardest in the game. Reason being, you don't have any items right off the bat to heal yourself with, and you've got very little, actual stats. So, in all honesty, or in my opinion, those battles are the hardest. From here on out, we can use save spots to restore our health and AP, so everything becomes significantly less difficult.
Orcs are amongst them!
There are too many! They have no chance!
Help me defend them!
I love the orcs. They just seem like they're super rowdy. I don't know. Alright, so for this battle, this lesser captain is much less of a threat than I remembered. Reason being, the captain can use a skill called Murder of Crows, and this particular captain is the one with the banner, and obviously, so his name is the Lesser Orc Captain. His Murder of Crows does not hit very hard, and that's just because his spirit stat is not as high as some of the other orcs in this region. We'll end up running into a chief later, and he's using more of just a staff. Like, this guy's got like a banner, and that's kind of how I identify him. But like I was saying, the other orcs in this region, there's another orc, I think it's like an orc chieftain or something like that. He's got more of a staff, and his Murder of Crows hits a lot harder, and I just believe that that's because his spirit stat is so much higher than this guy's. But anyways, I would say take out the archer first. I guess I don't know that it really matters. But then probably the other guy with the sword, and then take out the captain last. The captain just has a ton of health, and as you can see, he's just not really. I mean, he's buffing the party, which, yeah, you can argue that that's increasing the damage of the other two, but he's using some of the same buffs more than once, and they don't stack. So there's essentially he's just wasting turns. Here's Murder of Crows. Here's what's gonna do. 55, that's nothing compared to some of the other guys in this area. But anyways, so like I said, he was kind of just wasting turns, so I didn't really feel like he needed to be that big of a priority. And here, I'm obviously running out of AP again. Because again, this is hard mode. So actually what I'm going to end up doing here after this is I'll finish these guys off, and then I'm going to run, I'll run all the way back to the save point just to restore my AP and health. I'm not sure that I absolutely needed to do that, but you know, it's, I guess I was being careful. Number one, I'm playing on hard mode, and you know, I don't know. As with most RPGs, there's always something to be said for saving and, you know, kind of playing it safe. There's nothing worse than doing, like, you know, these battles that are taking a long time where you get a ton of playtime, and then you know, you end up, you know, dying to some random encounter, and it's like, oh, are you serious? And you end up, you know, losing an hour or something like that. So, you know, again, I tend to save more often than maybe I need to.
They will trouble you no longer.
You have found him.
What do you mean by that?
It is nothing. Hasten to Rivendell. I have cleared the road for you.
I am grateful, but you must return now to the passes. We saw evidence of recent battle there.
Come, Gondorian. Some may still survive.
All right. Anyways, so save often. I'm completely glossing over all the story stuff here, but maybe I'll just do a recap. So Barethor was traveling somewhere looking for what was it? Boromir? Was he looking for Boromir, I think? And gets bushwhacked by some Nazgul, which, man, how unlucky is that, huh? And you know, gets wiped out. Elf scares him off. You know, very, very Arwen-esque. And then, you know, she acts like, she kind of act like she knows him or something like that. And then this other elf, who was apparently part of Idril's, what was he, part of her, what did she say, caravan? Was that what it was? Yeah, that sounds right. Was like, oh, hey, you found him. So apparently they were looking for him or something like that. But anyways, again, I don't know, not a big fan of the storyline on this game anyway, but anyways, that's a quick recap for you. One of the other things I want to talk, okay, so going back to the whole skills, I guess, conversation, technically, or usually, I don't focus that much on Barethor's sword skills, and he does get, I believe he gets the best sword combo in the game. So, like, of all your characters, he gets the most damaging combo with a weapon out of all your characters, period. But that being said, his buffs are so awesome that I just feel like, you know, when you've got, okay, so you've got 3 people, you know, he can buff all 3 at a time. And, you know, so, I don't know, when it comes right down to it, yeah, he may have the most powerful single target attack of everybody in the game, but the fact that you're buffing your teammates and making them stronger, you know, there's something to be said for that. So, you know, and on top of that, he just gets so many abilities that are, I don't know, I guess I don't know what to, or how to describe them. They're just so beneficial to your party. I just don't think that you can overlook them. I just think that they're way too good to, you know, to say just focus on his sword skills. And that's the other cool thing. You don't have to. You get to do both. So, you know, if you want to strike a balance between his leadership skills and his sword skills, go right ahead. I tend to focus very heavily on his leadership skills. Maybe not so much here at the first part of the game because it's only him and Idril, but, you know, at a certain point, I feel like I barely ever use his sword skills, and I kind of just have everybody else deal all the damage, and he just kind of buffs everybody. And you know, maybe it's because I'm playing on hard as well. I just feel like there's, you know, there's certain buffs that are just so much, or just, I don't know, they're so beneficial to your party as a whole. His next leadership ability is called Company Valor, I believe it is, and it's going to increase your character's accuracy as well as increase the rate at which your characters will dodge. And you know, you can see how much these guys are cranking you for. So when you can, there you go. Speaking of misses. When you can just straight up avoid damage, it's huge, and you know that it just I guess it kind of comes down to like turn efficiency, I suppose. You know, if every enemy that attacks you connects, you have to heal all that health. Whereas if you know, use Company Valor once and it, you know, I don't know, makes it so that you evade 50% of the incoming blows, then that means that you only have to heal half as much. So, you know, when it comes down to it, there's something to be said for that. And I just feel like that's the one thing that really makes him stand out from everybody else. You know, I guess everybody can deal damage to a certain extent, but, you know, not everybody gets these crazy buffs that affect the entire party. So that is definitely where my focus for Berethor is going to be. It's also how I would recommend, you know, or I would recommend to anybody, especially newer players, you know, to focus, I guess, put more focus on the leadership abilities. I wouldn't say neglect your sword skills by any means. I would not say that that's a good idea, but, you know, at the same time, I just feel like the leadership skills are where his, you know, where he really shines. So anyways, let's get into stats a little bit. So, you know, this is a pretty huge discussion, but I'm just gonna say that after I've played this game now a couple of times, I'm not real wild about building for strength. Reason being, number one, when you build strength, that means that you not so when you build strength, you build for more damage. Which, hey, yeah, that seems like a great idea, right? Except here's the problem with that. With that strength, you need to have dexterity, because if you don't have the dexterity, your hits won't connect anyway. So basically, when it comes right down to it, it doesn't matter how hard you hit if you miss all the time, because, you know, every miss is 0 damage. So you know, I wouldn't say only focus, you know, if you are going to build strength, because I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad route. In all honesty, the cool thing about this game is you can literally do anything you want, and you will do okay. You know, like I said, if you only were to build strength, we'll say, on Berethor, and, you know, you're probably going to end up missing all the time, but, and that can get really frustrating. But when you do connect, you're going to be destroying dudes. So, you know, if you're okay with that, then go right ahead. Otherwise, you know, you may want to do a little bit of a split between strength and dexterity, so that, you know, okay, yeah, you may hit a little bit, you know, or you may not hit quite as hard, but you're going to connect more often. And, you know, again, I think that there's something to be said for that. Now, the way I am going to build, and the way I typically build, is actually I build speed, as well as, actually like to build a lot of AP on Berethor. And the reason being is the more spirit you have, actually. So I do speed and spirit. So what spirit is going to do for you is increase your spiritual, like, or your magic abilities, I suppose you could say. Which Berethor actually doesn't have any innately. So he doesn't. He doesn't have, like, so Idriel's got Loud Water Fury. That is a skill that, you know, is based solely off of her spirit, and, you know, the amount of strength she has doesn't affect that. So, so you may be thinking, well, why would you build that way then? Well, number one, you get a better AP total. You can see, obviously, my skills cost a lot of AP to use. The cool thing, though, with Berethor anyway, is that eventually you will get a passive. And I don't remember at what level. We'll say it's at least, I would bet it's at least 20. Or maybe 15. I don't know. Anyways, you'll get a passive that is going to reduce the amount of AP by 25% as long as your perfect gauge is full. The perfect gauge is at the bottom right-hand corner there. Basically, it fills up, is it when you take damage? I'm not sure. I don't know if it's when you take damage or if it's only when you deal damage. Or perform actions in combat. Anyways, maybe I'll save that for the next video or farther on when I know for sure. But anyways, that gauge is going to fill up. You can use what's called a perfect attack, and that's going to do generally a lot of damage. Those perfect attacks are pretty nice, but then you will lose. There's a couple of characters that have basically passives that activate when your perfect gauge is maxed out. So, you know, it's cool when you've got it maxed out, because then you're getting the benefits from those passives. But if you don't have that, you know, that gauge maxed out, then you're not going to be getting that benefit. Now, Barethor's, like I was saying, is a 25% AP cost reduction. That's actually extremely huge, and that's going to probably come into play a bit more later on once his AP total actually, you know, starts increasing by a bit, as well as his abilities are going to start costing quite a bit more. So that 25% reduction is going to be pretty awesome. And then on top of all that, much later on, Barethor also gets a leadership ability. I believe it's 200 AP to cast it, but when you do cast it, it reduces the AP costs for everybody in your party by 50%. And that actually stacks on top of his passive as well. So I believe that's his very last leadership skill though, so you know, it's gonna be much later on in the game when you finally get that, but when you finally do, it's gonna be pretty insane. And then on top of all that, the other reason why I build Spirit on Barethor is because later on in the game we will get items that allow us to start casting magic spells. And so not only is it nice to have an AP total, you know, with that Spirit, he'll also gain some benefit in, you know, doing more damage with those spells that he'll be able to get later on in the game. And then on top of that, so like the other stat that I was saying I like to build is speed. That's going to increase the frequency of your actions in combat, and that really is noticeable in this game. It's extremely noticeable. If you don't build your speed, you're going to notice that the enemies are going to get turns much more often than you, and it can become quite a serious problem. You know, when enemies are slamming you for half your health, you know, fairly frequently, and you're not getting turns in between, it's a legitimate problem. So that is why I would really recommend actually building speed on essentially everybody. You know, I wouldn't say go out of or put every stat point you possibly can into speed. I'm not saying that, but don't let it lag too far behind though either. So yeah, anyways, we're coming up on the end of this video, so I am going to cut the commentary here. You know, I'm hoping this first video was helpful, or you know, was hopefully at least fun to watch. You know, hopefully you know, you stay tuned and keep watching for more. One last thing though I do want to say about this spot right here is that right now where we're standing, I don't know if there's a bug here, but normally you have to move in order for your encounter gauge to fill up on the top left-hand corner. But it seems to me that this one fills up automatically whether you're moving or not. So, you know, if you wanted to, you could sit here and just farm enemies over and over if you had like a turbo controller or something like that. Now, that's not something that I'm going to do, but, you know, just, I guess, tossing it out there. But anyways, I'm going to cut the commentary here. So again, I hope you guys are liking, or I hope you like this video, and I hope you stay tuned for more. All right, thanks for watching.